Hey, this is Keith at Half Tracks and Honeybees. And of course, there's Blue, getting a little drink of water. What we're going to do today is just kind of walk around the property. It's a cold, chilly, windy day. The bees ain't doing anything, so I thought it'd be a good time just to walk around and show y'all a few things that I think are just pretty cool. So first off, let's flip this thing around. Now, if you notice, I'm wearing my safety vest today. During all of our walkabout, we're going to be on my land, but we're going to be close to some other folks' land, and they might be hunting. It's deer hunting season, and there's no use taking any chances. I don't want to look like a deer, so that's why we're wearing our safety vest out here in the woods. So, better safe than sorry. So we're going to start up here at the main road. You can see the bridge. Beyond the bridge, around the curve, is where the old Styers Mill is. I made a video on that a couple of weeks ago. I think it's a really cool video, but it didn't get a whole lot of views, but I'll put the link to it below if you're curious. It's got a real pretty beautiful waterfall. I'll show you a shot of that. But yeah, we're just up here at the beginning of the property. Of course, Blue the Wonder Dog is over there checking out everything. But we live on a really pretty creek, and we're going to walk down the creek, and I'll show you some cool stuff. So here we go. You can see that rock out there is where we were standing a few minutes ago. Lots of rocks on this property. Pretty rough terrain, but it made for a beautiful place to put a house. Got to cross over one of 4 little branches, springs, streams, whatever you want to call it, flow into the creek across our property. Hey Blue, how you doing? Notice how she always pays attention to me. But you can see right here, this is a really pretty stretch of creek. It was a lot prettier, but the one of the trees overhanging the creek fell down last summer during a storm. You can see it right there. The next big flood we have, it'll wash all that away and clean it up. But you can still see this was is a real pretty spot right here. Hey Blue, how you doing? So here's one of me and Blue's favorite spots to hang out. It's a big rock outcropping in the creek. You can walk out here, and it's a right pretty view. And if you notice right in front of us, that's actually an island out in the middle of the creek. It's got some pretty big trees on it. Give you some idea how large it is. But we'll get another shot of that when we get down beside of it. It's pretty cool. So here's another one of the many springs that are running down to the creek across the property. And you can see here this is that island I was talking about a minute ago. Let me get the sun behind a tree. There we go. But you can see the island starts up there. That's that point that we were looking at a few minutes ago. And it goes all the way down to a point on that end. And it's kind of fun getting over to the island. We're not going to try that today. But you kind of have to jump rocks. And you end up getting wet. But the island is a pretty cool place. And there's Blue frolicking and sniffing. Look at that tail. She has a good time in the woods. But yeah, we're still walking beside the island. It goes all the way down to a point. And it's a really pretty shot right here. Looking back up through there. It's a pretty place. Now we're going to head on down that way. And we have lots of these rocks all along the hillside going down to the creek. I guess it was a good place for God to grow rocks. Now this is a pretty spot here, overlooking the creek, up there amongst those really big beech trees. That'd be a pretty place to build something someday. Not sure what, but it's a pretty spot. It overlooks a curve here in the creek. Now this is what we call the big spring. It's the biggest of all the springs that comes through the property. You can see some really big rocks up through here. It's a really pretty place. Now one interesting story I can tell you is at one time there was a black fella named Whitehead, which I'm assuming he had white hair and that's where he got the name. I don't know that, but he lived on the property. I don't know that he owned it, but he had a sharpening business. If you needed a axe, knives, farm implements, whatever you had that needed sharpening, he was known to be the guy that could take care of it for you. Well, his business was right down here, and you can still see remnants of a little rock wall where he had dammed up the creek, and he used it to run his, or dammed up the spring, excuse me, and he used the water to run his sharpening wheel. And you can see some of these rocks down here where the wall has collapsed over time. But not only did he enjoy sharpening stuff, he also had a fondness for blowing stuff up. You might not know it, but back years ago, the local general store sold dynamite. They would have a little shack out back away from the main building where they stored it in for obvious reasons. But yeah, the farmer could go to the store and buy dynamite to blow up stumps or rocks or whatever he needed to do. Not quite like that anymore, but it seems Whitehead liked to go to the store and get dynamite and then blow up rocks out in the creek. And I can show you some of the remnants of his work. On this rock right here. A lot of these rocks, apparently he took big rocks and blew up into little rocks. And you can see right here, he had drilled this one out to put a charge in, but for some reason he never blew it up. But that works out good. It makes a good spot for the critters to get down to the water to get a drink. Critters like Blue. Hey Blue, how you doing? Yeah, the sun's kind of in the wrong place, but the creek looks really pretty that way. But that's where we were. And that's where we're going. So yeah, this is a pretty spot right here. You can see a little island down there in the creek. But also, if you look up the hill, that's our house up on the hill overlooking the creek. And here's a shot from up at the house looking back this way. So we can't see the creek very good in the summertime when all the leaves are out. All we can do is hear it. But this time of year, we've got a pretty good view. That's another tree that fell back during the summer. So like the other one up the creek, the next big flood we have, it'll clean all this mess up. And there was Blue about to fall in the creek. Good job, Blue. And here's another angle of the little island. You can see a big rock on the end of it. Also have some big rocks here and some more rocks there. Some big rocks up on the hillside up towards the house. And of course we're standing on a really big rock. So yeah, we got lots of rocks. A lot of rhododendron bushes too. That's pretty when it's blooming. Now this is a nice little spot. I hadn't raked it lately, but you can see it's a sandy area where my wife has a few chairs, and she calls this her beach, overlooking this little curve in the creek. Pretty nice little spot to hang out. Blue likes it, don't you, Blue? So here we have a couple of more really big rocks. We'll walk out here and jump over this crack. And this is kind of the last of the quiet water, for lack of a better term, on the creek as it runs through our property. Now once you leave the white water, the creek gets very quiet. Now up here in the woods we have a lot of what folks call running cedar. I guess it's in the tree family somehow. Some of you botanists might can help me out with that. But the woods is just full of this stuff. It's very pretty. We also have some pretty big pine trees out here in the woods, as pine trees go. You can see my hand. And it's pretty tall too. But lots of beeches, oaks, poplars, tons of poplars. That's where most of my honey comes from, is the tulip poplars. So elms, rhododendron. We got some a little bit of everything. But the creek is still running very quiet. Now looking across the creek at the other side on a friend's property, you can see, let me zoom in a little bit, a cave. Now I've never been over there, but that looks like a great place to explore sometime. A couple of other small ones there and there. But yeah, there might be some good critters in there. What do you think? It looks like a K and a S and a X111. Wonder who that could be. Well, it hadn't rained a lot lately, so obviously it's not running right now. But there's a little cut coming through the woods down this hillside that all the water from a maybe a 20-acre field up at the top of the hill, all that water gathers up and runs down this hill right here into the creek. After a big rain, it's really pretty to watch that waterfall. Now this is a pretty cool view here. You can see the creek. Then you can see the flats next to the creek. And then you got this hill. Now I found some Indian artifacts on that hillside and up on top. You know, that was the perfect place to have a camp or to have your home. A peninsula. You were high over the creek, no worry about floods. Plenty of water, game, fish. So no doubt that was a good place for the Indians to make a camp or to make a home. Now as for the trees we have in the forest, we've got these old red oaks, we've got beech trees. You can see right here in front of me a huge white oak. You can see tulip poplars, sourwoods, elms. We've got a lot of different kind of trees growing around here. Of course, we got pine trees. See a couple of red oaks over there. Big white oak right here. And there's a poplar next to it. So yeah, we're blessed with a lot of different kinds of trees. I'll show you some really big beech trees when we get over on another part of the land. There's another spring coming from that valley down through here to the creek, but it's not rained much lately, so it's kind of dried up. We still got Blue tagging along with us. She's never too far away. Now, I always thought this was kind of a cool spot, overlooking the creek. And you've got these big square stones. You've kind of got an outline of a square here, almost like something used to be here. Don't really know, but I can use my imagination. Kind of cool. Onward. This is a kind of a cool spot overlooking the creek. And what are we standing on? We're standing on a really big rock. Let me see if I can get down this hill without killing myself. Yeah, this is a pretty nice sized rock. Let me get over here where the sun's not in our way. And you can kind of see where a few critters have been bedding down under here. But yeah, this is a really big rock. You can see here, this is another pretty valley coming through the woods. It's got a little bit of water running in it. But yeah, this is another spring heading down by the big rock to the creek. So of course, if you got a spring, it's in a valley. So now we got to climb up another hill. No problem. Now, one thing that you'll see out here in the woods a lot are these old logging roads left from years ago, but nothing much still grows on them. I guess they got beat down so much. But yeah, lots of little paths through the woods. Now, the last of the springs is way down that hill. And the leaves are slick, and I don't want to bust my tail going down there. So you'll just have to trust me on it. Another pretty valley heading out towards the creek. Now y'all have probably seen this view on some of my other videos. This is up at the shop where the Fairlane and the Half Track live. Then you got part of my beehives. Got about 10 of them down here. It's chilly today, so the ladies aren't out a whole lot. They might be out on the porch. These hives, no, nowhere to be found. They're clustered in a nice warm little ball. But then you have the pine forest where we planted pine trees about, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago. But it works out really good. Anytime I need any pine needles, all I got to do is bring a tarp up here and rake the woods. All the pine needles I want. At a good price. Free. And here we are, walking out into one of the cleared fields on the property. I have a lot of wildflowers planted out here for the bees and other pollinators. Then you can see up there's where the rest of my hives are, out in front of my great aunt and uncle's old farmhouse. We'll take a look at it when we get up there a little closer. Now this is the old road heading into the property. This is the old road that Samson and Bertha used to use getting to their little farmhouse all those years. As far as how old the road is, it's on old survey plat maps from back in the early 1900s, and it was there before then. They called it the old factory road. I'm sure it's well over 100 years old, maybe 150 years. This was the way that they used to go down to an old cotton mill down on the creek, which I know kind of where it's at, but there's a development over there that has pretty much destroyed the any remains that there would be of the old factory. But this was the way that they got into it. You can see the road down here forks. The right-hand fork goes into our property, and the left-hand fork is the old road that goes down to the creek where the old factory used to be. Kind of cool that it was a cotton mill back in the day. You know, cotton is not something that we know was grown in this area, but obviously years ago it was a big deal. Yeah, we'll see if any of these ladies are out on the porch. The sun hits them a little bit better than those other hives this time of year. Yeah, there's a few out on the porch. You can see those. A few ladies there catching some sun. But yeah, this was my great aunt and uncle's old house, Samson and Bertha. They were married back in the 40s. This old house is actually a log house that has this German siding put on it. I can show you a couple of shots of where I had to repair some water damage a couple of years ago. You can see where that corner there's had a little bit of patchwork done. They also had a fire back when they were living here. Now, they didn't get electricity until the mid-80s. Didn't have a phone. They did have an old car, an old 56 Ford, Carolina blue. But All they had was a wood stove in the front room and a cook stove in the back, all fired by wood. And Bertha must have got it a little bit too hot, and the old house actually caught on fire. I found this old burnt piece of timber up in the attic through that little door. But this chimney here somehow caught the wood on fire. And since they didn't have a phone, Bertha had to run about a half a mile up the road to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. And she did that, and they got here, and the little house didn't burn down, and I'm not really sure why it didn't. But I guess the Lord was looking after them that day. But this main part of the house, this was the log house. The little part on the back, that was the kitchen. It was added onto it. And I had this old couch sitting here for probably, I don't know, 15 years? Close to 20 years, I guess. And never had a bit of trouble. And suddenly something decided that it was delicious. Either that or there was some critter that they found inside of it. But they tore it all to pieces. Anyway, you got to have a couch on the front porch and a good washing machine. And I already did another video on the outhouse. Like I said earlier, they didn't have electricity until the mid-80s. Once they got electricity, Daddy had a well punched for them, so they had running water in the house, but they never had indoor toilet. So they always had the outhouse. And of course, it was a nice two-seater. One over there and one over here. Toilet paper holder, all the conveniences. And of course it was full of, yeah, you got it. Y'all saw that coming, didn't you? But yeah, as outhouses go, this one's actually pretty nice. Now the old farmhouse, Bertha and Samson, they got married in the 40s. They say this old house was torn down from across the creek and brought over here and put back together again when it was a log house. I'm not sure when that was, but we've got these two huge cedar trees out in the yard. And based on the diameter of that one, it's about 125, 130 years old. So I believe this house was here before Samson and Bertha got married. I think it was moved, gosh, late 1800s, early 1900s maybe. But we also have what's left of an old wood-fired tobacco barn. They claim the log barn was blown down back when Hurricane Hugo came through in the 80s. But all that's left now are the furnaces where you put the slabs in. Well, not really the furnaces, I guess it's more like the fireboxes. And you still see the rocks for the foundation. But the rest of it is down under the pack house. I'll show you that when we get down there. But yeah, there's another shot of the 7 beehives I have up here. That'll probably be 10 or 12 come spring. So who knows? We shall see. Now behind the outhouse is a very cool bamboo forest. And you can see the bamboo is so thick that you can't see daylight through it looking in that direction. Now when we first moved here, the bamboo stopped in this area. All of this over here has sprouted since we've been here. This used to be a clearing through here over to the old pack house. But yeah, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Now this is what they call the old pack house. It had many uses on the farm, but this one actually somebody lived in it for a short time. Can you believe that? They had a little stove in it. You can see the little chimney up on top. Underneath it is some cool stuff. You can see a lot of old tobacco sticks, an old ladder. Those are the old chimneys from the tobacco barn, along with this big round thing. I'm not really sure what you call that. But there's an old sled under there where you could use to move stuff around on the farm, pull it with the mule. They never had a tractor to farm with. All Sampson ever had was a mule. I believe her name was Katie. And she lived down in the mule shed, which is over that direction. We'll be over there shortly. But yeah, the old pack house, it's a pretty creepy old place. We'll take a look inside. If a critter jumps out and I scream, it's not my fault. So you can see some pretty strange stuff. There's the old stove that was out here, hooked up into the chimney. Let me turn it off for just a minute to get some light. Okay, here we go. So you can see some old chairs, old andirons, ladder, windows, some glass stuff, some old sleds. You can see some old material where the guy that lived in here, he had used to stick in some cracks, I guess, to keep the breeze out. An old shovel. Screen door. There's some old miscellaneous leather doodads. I'm sure had something to do with the mule. Miscellaneous implements. I think that's actually the dipper out of the bucket back when they had an old well with a windlass where you had to put the bucket down in the well and draw it back up to get water before they got electricity. This is kind of cool. This was an old headlight bucket I found out in the middle of the woods in an old logging road going up to where we built our house. I bet it was from an old Model T, what they used to call a doodlebug. Somebody running through the woods or an old logging truck or something. But yeah, it was where there really shouldn't be any cars. Here we have a couple of buckets of old horseshoes. A little pile of stuff in the corner where some critter lived. Some old bottles I found, George Dickel. Let's see, what's this one? Canada Dry Vodka. The good stuff. I think this was one of the old buckets that they used down in the small board well with a valve in the bottom, so you could let it down and it'd fill up with water, and then when you pulled it back up, the water wouldn't run out. Kinda cool. An old ice cream freezer. But yeah, my wife pretty much thinks this place is haunted, so she don't really come out here a whole lot. Kinda cool. Now over here you have some old barbed wire running around, and I think this is where they kept some pigs out here that obviously they fattened up and used for food. Now this old building, this is what they call the mule shed. It's kind of fell down in the middle a little bit. But they said this is where they used to keep their mule. Not really sure about that. It seems like the roof line is a little bit low for a good sized mule. I know it's shorter in the middle there because it's fell down a little bit, but it's still, if you look on the outside, it still looks a little short. Maybe Samson had a short mule. He wasn't but about 5'5", so maybe he got a mule the same size he was. Now down in this area here is where Aunt Bertha's flower bed has washed over the years. And in early spring, this area is full of daffodils. I'm going to edit in a little bit of another video I did to give you some idea of how pretty this was when the daffodils are blooming. Well, now we'll just take and walk on down this way a little bit. Now here's one of the big beech trees I said I'd show you. It's not the biggest, but it's a pretty good sized one. There's another one over here that's pretty cool. Now here's the upper end of what I called the big spring earlier, where I showed you running into the creek. Then across over here is a really big double beech. How cool is that? And this one, over the years, people have carved a lot of stuff in it. Looks like right here might be 1936, 1978 up there. Can't make out all of it. But obviously this old tree has been a point of interest for quite a while. Got some more stuff over here. Pretty cool. Now here's a shot of one of the trees that helped give me so much honey this year. The bees love them, and they're like a flower garden up in the sky. The tulip poplar. Look at all those little buds that have gone to seed now. All those were a little cup of nectar for the bees. It's a great tree to have around, and we've got thousands of them. Can't complain about that. Now we'll conclude our little tour up here on the hill. Remember earlier when we were down on the creek, I looked up the hill and said, man, that would be a pretty spot to build something someday. I don't know what, but something. Well, that's where we're standing now. The creek comes down this way. Got a nice little curve to it over that way. Then our house is over on the next hill. You got this beautiful valley that runs here between the two hills. You got these big beech trees. Which is sad, they're beautiful, majestic trees, but I don't think the wood's good for a whole lot. But that's fine with me. We'll just leave them standing. Just like all these trees. The white oaks, the red oaks. It's all beautiful. Well, this concludes our little walk around the property. I sure hope you enjoyed it. I did. I think it's a pretty place, and I really enjoy walking in the woods and just doing nothing. It's a great place to do that when the bees aren't keeping me too busy. But if you liked it, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you like the variety of craziness I have on my channel. And please make sure you always take time to enjoy the buzz. We'll see y'all later. Take care.